the seat of House Baratheon, the lords paramount of the Stormlands. But before Aegon's conquest it belonged to the House Durrandon, the Storm Kings. If you want to know everything about this place, stay till the end, but first, don't forget to subscribe and share. Storm's End is the capital of the Stormlands, the smallest kingdom in Westeros. The territory is delimited by the north to the Crownlands, by the west to the Reach, by the south to Dorne and the Sea of Dorne, and by the east to the Narrow Sea. The castle is located at Duran's Point on the northern coast of Shipbreaker Bay, which is naturally protected by the Isle of Darth. It is south of Bronzegate and the King's Wood. The King's Road runs north from Storm's End through the Stormlands to King's Landing and keeps straight to Castle Black at the Wall. It is around 378 miles away from the capital King's Landing. The Storm Kings, from House Durrandon, used this castle as their seat as the rulers over the Stormlands. In its long history, the formidable fortress has never fallen to siege or storm. During Aegon's conquest, the last Storm King, Argilac the Arrogant, abandoned his impressive defences to face Aegon's cousin, Orys Baratheon, in open battle but suffered a huge defeat in the so-called Battle the Last Storm. Taking Argilac's daughter, Argella, as his bride, Orys became Aegon's Lord Paramount of the Stormlands, and House Baratheon replaced the Durrandons as Lords of Storm's End by taking their seat and sigil. Storm's End hosted Aegon I Targaryen several times during the King's royal progresses. During the reign of Viserys I, Lord Bormont Baratheon was ordered to find a husband for Princess Rhaenyra, but he failed. The civil war called the Dance of Dragons began right here at Storm's End, when Lord Borros Baratheon received Prince Aemon Targaryen as an envoy of King Aegon II, and Prince Lucerys Velaryon, envoy of Queen Rhaenyra I, in the Round Hall, where Prince Aemon offered to take one of Lord Borros's daughters as bride and dragon's eggs in exchange of the full support of Stormland's army. Lucerys and his dragon, Arrax, were slain by Aemond and Vargar outside Storm's End when Lucerys attempted to leave, making war inevitable. Lord Borros was killed in the Battle of the King's Road fighting for the Green side. 7 days before his son was born, Olyvar Baratheon, the heir of Stormlands. In the wake of the defiance of Duskendale, King Aerys II summoned his friend and cousin, Lord Steffon Baratheon of Storm's End, to court and named him to the Small Council. In year 278 after the conquest, Aerys sent Steffon to Volantis to find a bride of noble birth from an old Valyrian bloodline for Prince Rhaegar, and it was rumored that Aerys intended to replace Lord Tywin as Hand of the King with Steffon upon the latter's return. Steffon failed to find a suitable bride for Rhaegar. On the return voyage, Steffon's ship, the Wind Proud, was caught in a storm while in Shipbreaker Bay and sank, killing Steffon along with his wife and 100 men. According to Grand Maester Pycelle, Aerys was enraged by Steffon's death and believed it had been arranged by Tywin for fear of being replaced as Hand. Steffon was succeeded as Lord of Storm's End by his eldest son, Robert. From an early age onwards, Robert had been fostered by Lord Jon Arryn of the Eyrie in the Vale, where he met his best friend for life, Eddard Stark of Winterfell. Jon, who had no children of his own, became like a second father to them. During the period in which he was fostered, Robert visited Storm's End on multiple occasions. On one of that occasions, with his brother Stannis, they both watched their parents die at the Shipbreaker Bay. However, Robert was the new Lord Paramount of Stormlands. He returned to the Eyrie, allowing Sir Harbert, rumoured to be a bastard, to continue as Castellan of Storm's End, as Lord Steffon had decreed before his journey to Volantis. In the year 281 after the conquest, Robert was present at the tourney at Harrenhal, where he took part in the melee. It was Robert's cousin, Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, who won the final joust of the tourney. The prince crowned Lyanna Stark, by then long betrothed to Robert, the Queen of Love and Beauty, instead of his wife, Princess Ilia Martell. The next year, Prince Rhaegar kidnapped Lyanna, and the news of it led her eldest brother, Brandon, and later her father, Lord Rickard, to King's Landing demanding justice. Both were executed by order of King Aerys II, who then sent a raven demanding the heads of Robert and Eddard, wards of Lord Jon Arryn at the Eyrie. Jon refused, however, and rose up in rebellion instead, with Eddard, now Lord of Winterfell, following the deaths of his father and older brother, and Robert Lord Paramount of the Stormlands, who sailed back home respectively to call their banners. During the rebellion, Lord Robert Baratheon feasted and hunted with Lords Catherine and Grandison at Storm's End. After defeating them at Summer Hall, Robert hung the banners of the defeated in his hall as trophies. Then Robert marched with the full forces of Stormlands to the north in order to reunite with the forces of Vaelan the North, leaving his brother Stannis in charge of a small group and the little 5-year-old Renly, with the duty to defend the castle. Storm's End was then besieged for near a year by the host of Lord Mace Tyrell, who commanded the landward forces, whilst Lord Paxter Redwyne's fleet of the Arbor kept the castle cut off by sea. However, Stannis, in command of the defence, refused to yield, and his men were reduced to eating rats and roots. A smuggler named Devos ran the blockade and got to the castle within his small boat full of fish and onion, allowing the garrison to outlast the siege of Storm's End for a year. At the end of the rebellion, Lord Robert Baratheon became King of the Seven Kingdoms, shocking everyone when he handed over the castle and titles to the Stormlands to his younger brother, 6-year-old Renly, and granted Stannis only the island of Dragonstone. Ned Stark and Stannis took this as an insult, but Jon Arryn argued that, by tradition and law, Dragonstone is given to the heir, and at that precise moment Stannis was Robert's heir. Then the House of the Deer was divided into 3 factions. The House Baratheon of King's Landing, headed by the King Robert, who changed his sigil, mixing it to his wife's, Cersei Lannister. The House Baratheon of Dragonstone, headed by Lord Stannis, who also changed his sigil, adopting the flaming heart of the Lord of Light. Finally, the House Baratheon of Stormlands, headed by Lord Renly, who kept the original sigil for many years, until the death of his brother Robert. Then he married with Marjorie of the House Tyrell and adopted his wife's colours, switching the black deer into golden and the yellow field into green, and he proclaimed himself as King of the South and true heir to the Iron Throne. Robert's decision to give Renly the titles and lands of the Stormlands set a precedent, so that, after his death and with the revelation that Cersei's children were not Robert's, Renly felt entitled to set aside his older brother Stannis of the line of succession. This caused that at the time of calling their banners, some houses responded to Stannis' call, but the majority went to Renly's call, who also had the full support of House Tyrell and the forces from the Reach due to his marriage. The awful relationship between the Baratheon brothers allowed the Lannisters to take the crown and throne relatively easily. One of the strongest castles in the realm, Storm's End, was once the ancestral seat of the Storm Kings of House Durrandon, extending back many thousands of years. The castle is said to be protected by spells woven into its very walls that prevent magic from affecting it or passing through it. Storm's End is surrounded by a massive outer curtain wall, 100 feet high and 40 feet thick on its thinnest side and nearly 80 feet thick on its seaward side. It is composed of a double course of pale grey stone with an inner core of sand and rubble. The wall is smooth and curving, the stones so well placed and so perfectly fit together that the wind can find no purchase. On the seaward side, there is a 150-foot drop below the wall into the sea. There is no safe anchorage by the castle. The curtain wall protects the castle's kitchens, stables, and yard. Storm's End has only one tower, a colossal drum tower crowned with formidable battlements, making it look like a huge, spiked fist thrusting towards the sky from afar. The tower is so large that it comfortably contains the granary, barracks, armory, feast hall, and lord's chambers all at once. The main hall of the castle is called the Round Hall. The master's cell and the rookery are located at the top of the tower, which is windowless on the side facing the sea. It is said that there are spells woven into the stonework of Storm's End. The seaward side of the castle stands upon Durrandon's Point, a high white cliff overlooking the sea. There is a watery passage through a cavern that leads beneath the castle, protected by a portcullis, bars, and murder holes. The godswood of Storm's End has a weirwood heart tree carved with a solemn face. Despite a good wind off Shipbreaker Bay, the weather is hot at Storm's End in summertime. There are fields and stony ridges in the vicinity. What do you think about Robert's decision to make Little Renly Lord Paramount of Stormlands and Stannis only Lord of Dragonstone, after he heroically defended his family's castle? Was it an insult or reward to Stannis? Tell me in the comments and don't forget to subscribe and share. If you want to support the channel, go to my Patreon.